My wife said, "I want your $100,000 inheritance." "My sister can't afford a house." I replied, "You're right. It's for the family." I'm Mike, 36, a guy most would call easygoing, maybe even too accommodating. Over the last 7 years, I've learned to keep the peace. I've let Karen's family treat my home as their playground and my wallet as a communal fund. Brunches, car repairs for her brother Ryan, endless subtle digs from her cousin, Vanessa, everything I put up with quietly. 2 weeks ago, everything changed. Aunt Louise, my mother's sister, passed away suddenly. She wasn't just family. She was a force of nature. Firecracker, stubborn, fiercely loving, the kind of person who called you out when you were being a pushover. And now, with her estate settled, her house sold, $100,000 landed in my account. Not life-changing money, but enough to breathe freely for the first time in years. Enough to feel that maybe, just maybe, I could take a step back from being everyone's ATM. At first, Karen and her family acted unusually sweet. Coffee in bed, compliments on my cooking, smiles that felt too wide. My gut told me something was coming. And it did, one evening when I was sorting through Aunt Louise's old watercolor paintings. Not great artist's work, but hers, filled with her stubborn personality. That's when Karen walked in, followed closely by her sister Bianca. Tag team, ready to pounce. "Mike, we need to talk about your inheritance," Karen started. That tone she uses when she's about to ask for something outrageous. I tried to stay calm. "Karen, it's not about the money." This was my Aunt Louise's. "It's personal." Karen's eyes lit up. "I know, but she would want us happy. And you know what would make the whole family happy?" She tilted her head, smiling, expectantly. Bianca, 29. Chimed in with all the seriousness of a toddler planning a tea party. "A starter home. I found this perfect little new development just outside the city. Bonus room for my studio." I felt the blood drain from my face. A starter home, with my inheritance. Karen's arms crossed, her grin smug. "See, it's perfect," she said. "The $100,000 covers the down payment and upgrades. You'll understand once you see it." I froze. The peacemaker in me wanted to just nod, offer a token compromise, maybe a $5,000 gift to calm them down. But the memory of Aunt Louise's voice snapped me awake. "Don't let these vultures pick you clean, Mike. You have a spine. Use it." Cold, quiet rage spread through me, coiling like a snake in my chest. I forced a smile. "You're right," I said slowly. Karen's grin widened. Bianca clapped. "Oh my God, thank you, Mike." Inside, I was shaking, but outwardly, I played along. "It's for family, absolutely. Something meaningful. Let's make it legal, set up the paperwork properly." I watched as their excitement soared. They were giddy, scrolling through furniture websites, talking paint colors and housewarming parties. But I didn't call my financial advisor. I called my lawyer, the one I'd kept on retainer for emergencies. 2 years worth of small unease leading to this moment. "Greg," I said, "it's time. I need an irrevocable trust, immediate protection, and schedule a consultation for divorce." Greg got to work immediately. The $100,000, technically my separate property, was moved into an irrevocable trust, with him and his firm as trustees, legally untouchable. When the trust documents were finalized, I printed the cover sheet with the big access denied stamp. I texted Bianca, "Be at the downtown branch Friday." Final paperwork. Champagne bottle emojis poured in reply. For 2 days. I was the perfect supportive husband, nodding at Karen's praise for my man of the family energy. While inside, I was calm, methodical, ready. Friday came. Suit on, heart steady. Meeting Karen and Bianca at the bank lobby. I guided them into the glass-walled conference room. I slid the cover sheet across the table. Bianca's face drained of color. What is this trust?" Karen snatched it, reading quickly. "Mike, what's this?" It's your family's inheritance, protected. From you, from anyone. It's safe. The silence was deafening. Miss Alvarez, the senior VP, observed neutrally. Bianca's tears welled up. Where's my house money? There never was, I said calmly. It was mine. My Aunt Louisa's gift. Protected. Family. Karen's smug confidence evaporated. You lied to us. No, I said, standing, voice steady. You lied to yourselves. For 6 years, you've been bleeding me dry. This was the last straw, they screamed. They demanded the bank undo the trust. Miss Alvarez's face was unreadable. Ma'am, I'm just a witness. The trust is legally binding. There's nothing this bank can do. I adjusted my tie. I promised to use it for family. I have, my family. Aunt Louise's family. The rest is history. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a divorce consultation. I walked out, leaving their screams echoing in the lobby, free for the first time in 6 years. Friday morning, the sun barely creeping over the city skyline, I woke with a strange calm. It felt like a soldier before battle quiet, methodical, unshakable. I dressed in my best navy suit, a tie perfectly knotted, polished shoes clicking on the hardwood. Today, I wasn't just a husband. I was the man who finally drew a line. Karen and Bianca arrived at the downtown bank branch, energy buzzing like they'd just won the lottery. Bianca, practically vibrating, whispered, "Is this it? Am I getting the check?" Her excitement made my stomach twist, but my face stayed neutral. Sort of, I said. We need to meet with the trust officer. She has the final documents. Miss Alvarez, the senior VP, led us into a glass-walled conference room. Professional, neutral, unreadably exactly the audience I wanted. I slid the printed cover sheet across the table. The one stamped access denied unauthorized parties. Bianca's brow furrowed, her face draining of color. What is this? She squeaked. Karen snatched it and skimmed the text. Mike, what is this? Where's the money for the house? I sat back, calm as a lake. It's in a trust. Legally protected. My inheritance. Not for anyone to touch. Family, yes, but my family. Aunt Louise's family. The room fell silent. Miss Alvarez observed quietly, her expression neutral, as if this were just another day at the office. Karen's voice rose. You promised me. You promised Bianca the money. I leaned forward, voice steady but cold. I promised to use it for family. I did. You lied to yourselves for 6 years. For every brunch, every emergency repair, every sly insult. This is the last straw. They both erupted in screams. Bianca begged the officer to undo it now. Miss Alvarez remained calm. Ma'am, I am only a witness. The trust is irrevocable. The funds are untouchable. I adjusted my tie, forcing a polite smile. I promised to honor Aunt Louise. That promise stands. The rest is none of your concern. Karen tried to plead, to bargain, to charm. Nothing worked. I was no longer the peacemaker, no longer the man who let her family run my life. I stood, collected my briefcase, and told them, I have a divorce consultation. Please excuse me. Walking through the bank lobby, I felt weight lifting. 6 years of quiet resentment, of being everyone's doormat, dissipated. For the first time in years, I could breathe. The next 2 days, I executed my plan with surgical precision. I changed the locks, secured my accounts, and informed my lawyer, Greg, of every potential loophole Karen or her family might exploit. Greg was a machine meticulous, unflinching, and perfectly legal. We coordinated security measures, documented everything, and prepared for the inevitable legal fireworks. By Wednesday, everything was in place. The trust was irrevocable, the money untouchable, and I had full control of my life again. Karen called incessantly, first to the bank, then to her mother, then to me. I let it ring. When I finally answered, I said simply, "You should probably speak to a lawyer." I already have. Her voice cracked, half panic, half rage. Mike, you can't do this. You promised. I let her words hang. I did promise, Karen. I promised to protect my family, and I did. Then I hung up, calm, resolute, finally free. That evening, I moved into a small, corporate apartment, quiet, sterile, and fully mine. Aunt Louise's watercolor paintings hung on the walls. Each brushstroke reminded me that freedom, like art, is personal. I wasn't victorious in the flashy, movie sense. It was messy, it cost me. But for the first time, I had my spine back. My money, my choices, my life untouched. Karen and Bianca, furious and humiliated, were powerless. I had outmaneuvered them, not with rage, but with patience, preparation, and principle. 6 years of being drained, belittled, and manipulated finally ended. They lost their control, their plans, and their entitlement, and me. I finally won something far greater than money. I won myself. The legal battle started almost immediately. Karen, of course, was furious. She called her brother, Ryan, and her mother, trying to rally support, threaten me, and convince them that I had cheated her out of her share. I let her calls go to voicemail. Greg, my lawyer, assured me that we were solid. Every action I had taken, the trust, the account protections, the documentation of her previous manipulations, was airtight. 2 days later, Ryan called. Mike, you need to undo the trust. Give Karen and Bianca the money, now. I stayed calm, keeping my voice even. Ryan, the money isn't theirs. It never was. Attempting to access it now would be illegal. He shouted, threatened lawsuits, tried to appeal to some sense of morality, but I could hear the panic behind his words. 6 years of feeding off my patience had led them to believe they could bend reality to their will. But Greg had prepared me for this moment. Every threat, every intimidation tactic was catalogued. Karen escalated quickly. She tried to file complaints with the bank, claiming I had coerced her, claiming harassment. She even threatened false police reports. Greg, calm as ever, collected every interaction. Mike, he said, this is going to be very satisfying. The first court date arrived. Karen, Bianca, Ryan, and their lawyer walked in, faces painted with outrage. Their goal was obvious: bully, intimidate, and reclaim what they believed was owed. But the reality was starkly different. Greg presented the trust documents. He detailed the separate property laws, the irrevocability of the trust, and the legal separation of my inheritance from marital property. Then came the bombshell: recordings and evidence of Bianca impersonating a bank representative, attempting unauthorized transfers from my personal accounts, and coordinating with Karen to commit wire fraud. The courtroom went silent. Bianca's face turned pale. Karen's mouth opened and closed, words failing her. Greg continued calmly, laying out each piece of evidence like dominoes falling perfectly in line. Audio recordings, text chains, witness statements, all clearly showing premeditation. You see, Your Honor, Greg said, my client has been threatened, manipulated, and defrauded by his spouse and her family for years. The trust protects his separate property and prevents further criminal acts. The evidence shows clear intent to commit financial crimes. Karen tried to interrupt, but Greg's presence and preparation were unshakable. The judge leaned forward, scrutinizing the evidence. Mr. Mike, the judge said, voice sharp, the trust appears valid. The allegations of attempted fraud are serious. This court will take all protective measures. Within days, a temporary restraining order was granted, keeping Karen, Bianca, and Ryan from contacting me directly. The smear campaign they had planned fizzled, their threats powerless against solid legal backing. Divorce proceedings were brutal in their emotional intensity but legally straightforward. Karen demanded the house, a share of my 401k, alimony, and legal fees. Greg countered with precise calculations, showing what was fair and what was not. In the final mediation, we reached a settlement. Karen. would receive 50% equity from the marital home I had bought before the inheritance. Asterisk. My retirement accounts remained untouched. My inheritance was untouchable. Alimony, a one-time payment of $20,000. The moment Karen realized she couldn't manipulate the situation further, the anger in her eyes turned to disbelief. She had misjudged me for 6 years. I had waited, planned, and acted with precision. As I walked out of the final mediation, the weight lifted entirely. No more threats, no more emotional blackmail. Karen, Bianca, and Ryan were left with their rage and their small condo. They had been exposed, legally restrained, and finally powerless. I moved into my new apartment, smaller but mine. The quiet was profound. Aunt Louisa's paintings hung on the walls, reminding me daily of freedom, resilience, and patience. The victory wasn't loud or glamorous. It wasn't a blockbuster moment of revenge. It was methodical, deliberate, and deeply satisfying. I had protected what mattered, my inheritance, my peace, and my dignity. For the first time in years, I could breathe, make my own choices, and truly live without fear of manipulation or control. Karen and her family didn't learn lessons in empathy or remorse. They were angry, yes, but powerless. I wasn't a doormat. I wasn't a peacemaker for manipulators. I was finally myself, and in that quiet apartment, with the paintings staring back at me, I realized, sometimes winning isn't about hurting others. It's about reclaiming your life, one careful, calculated step at a time.